Good afternoon.
You'd like to give a brief opening before.
Good afternoon. My name is JonathanTempleton. I've been practicing here in Brevard County since 2014. 2015, I started at the State Attorney's Office. I was awarded the Judicial Young Lawyers Professionalism Award. I guess I started my career probably before that with Judge Silverman as a judicial assistant. In 2017, moved into my own practice, where I've been since 2017, and I do mostly employment law and criminal law in my own practice.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about why you want to be a judge? Why are you applying now? What's your motivation behind being a judge?
Lots of reasons to be a judge. Number one, I think I've wanted to be a judge for a long time. I believe in the rule of law. I believe in fairness. My mom loves to tell a story. When I was 6 years old, I was playing a volleyball game. One team was winning quite handily, and one of the adults wanted to change the rules of the game, and I became very, very upset that the rules were going to change in the middle of the game. It's fine if you want to change them at the end of the game, but I believe in rules and I believe in the fairness of law. And I believe that everybody is entitled to the same set of rules. And I want to be able to be the one to apply those rules.
Thank you.
Just looking at your references here, and there are certainly a couple who are lawyers, but
Yes,
a surprisingly large number who are not lawyers.
that's correct.
Can you tell us why?
Well, I think the top three there are law enforcement officers, and as a defense attorney, I think the relationships with the law enforcement and being able to communicate openly with both sides, whether they're opposing or not opposing, is an important step and an important quality to have to be able to negotiate and navigate the legal system. As far as the others, I could have put a lot of attorneys down as references, but I think my experience outside of the law as well. I spent 10 years as a district manager for a finance company before I even went to law school, and I think that those individuals know my ability to be fair and to show empathy where it's needed, and be a well-rounded person and make an even better judge.
Hey, John.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. So I met a Jim, and it's funny, I was going to ask literally the exact question, because normally we don't see that. Normally it's, this judge, this judge, this judge. And I can tell you that it was interesting, I'm not going to talk too much, but it was interesting that, that I get these input, from commanders, lieutenants, higher ups in these agencies. And one of the things that really struck me, so I thought I knew you pretty well, and I didn't know this, and so a couple people had told me about this, and tell us how you got involved in employment law. In particular, I'm interested in is how you got yourself spun up, right? Because if you get a circuit job, there's a lot of different facets of law.
Absolutely.
And so I want to know how you taught yourself and how you got yourself spun up, because a lot of people say you were a very, very good employment lawyer.
Well, I appreciate that. I think the way I got started was when I left the state attorney's office. I went to an employment law firm. My wife is a chief HR officer for a mid-sized company, and so I well-versed in speaking with her about some of the employment law issues and things like that that go along with a large corporation, multinational corporation. So when I decided to leave the state attorney's office, I wanted to go do something completely different than criminal law. And I started with a small law firm in Orlando, and it was not a good experience for me personally. And I think that a lot of that had to do with the way people were treated, not just the clients, but also the people in the office. I enjoyed the research and the legal aspects of the employment law field. And so so when the decision was made that it wasn't a good fit for me, I wanted to be able to impact people in Brevard County, especially with employment law. I don't believe that there are very many employment lawyers in Brevard County. And so I thought that was a place where a need needed to be filled, and I was hoping to be able to fill it.
How did you get yourself spun up? Like, how did you ultimately, my understanding was you taught yourself.
I did.
How did you do that?
Reading, case law, and I think ultimately it started with the basics, and that's what I got at the employment law firm. And so once you do that, then you start the research process, and every case is a little bit different, and every case teaches you something new, and I think that goes for every area of the law. Every case teaches you something different, something new, something that you didn't know before, and you take that to the next case and take that to the next case. Certainly getting spun up was a difficult place to be, and I didn't want to take any of the more difficult, demanding cases when you talk about the employment law field. But as time goes on, you understand what nuances and things like that may predict whether a case is going to be successful. And quite frankly, employment law is a hard place to be. Businesses don't like to let go of their money. Businesses don't like to admit that they're wrong. Businesses don't like to do that. And a lot of the legal system and a lot of the laws protect large businesses. And insurance companies, they protect the big businesses. And I wanted to have people have an outlet to fight against those businesses.
If you get appointed, there's going to be an election in 2 years.
Yes, sir.
Are you prepared to run a campaign? Do you know what that takes?
I was prepared to run a campaign in the last election. My wife, who wears the pants in the family, told me that we were going to buy a house instead, and so the funds just weren't there to start up the campaign, the signs, and all of those things. So absolutely, I'd be prepared to campaign in 2 years.
And if your name gets sent up and you don't get appointed, will you run at the next available opportunity?
It is my intention to run for the next available opportunity.
Good afternoon. So I wanted to follow up on some of what Mr. Robinson was talking about. I was looking at your split of your practice, and then the cases that you listed. And I understand you're expecting to see a lot of criminal cases, but they're all criminal cases. And I'm just curious why there weren't any employment cases of any significance or civil cases of any significance or recent.
Trial. Those were trial cases. Most of my cases, or all of my cases, have been resolved outside, short of the trial itself. Whether it's because it's a powerful demand letter or I've received other information that, the other thing with employment law is that should they lose a case after trial, they may be responsible for the attorney's fees. And that is a big risk that a lot of my clients aren't willing to take based on, once it goes through the EEOC process and once it goes through all the other vetting and the discovery process, you get to that point, and if it's a 50-50 or a 60-40, when you talk about these big corporations and they're going to spend $800 an hour on an attorney, understand that you're going to have $250,000 in legal fees should you not come out on top. So I think that's essentially the answer to that.
Okay, fair enough. And you're right. That's the way the restrictions statutes work for MSLA.
Yeah.
Who are the judges you emulate the most here in North County?
I'm sorry.
Who are the judges you emulate the most?
Emulate the most? Oh, I don't know that there's one particular. Obviously, for me, Judge Silverman, as his JA, I learned a tremendous amount, and Judge Silverman is a brilliant individual. He taught me a lot about the legal research aspect of it. The legal mind that he has is second to none. So I think the legal research and the thoughtfulness that goes with that is who I would emulate. He has timeliness issues, so I would emulate other judges in that aspect. But I think that there are a lot of quality judges, and I like to take parts from every one of them. You know, I think Judge Crawford has a great way that he runs his courtroom. It's a no-nonsense type courtroom. You know, and I love Judge Babb when she was on the bench. She was a very good training ground for me. You know, she took the time to talk to young attorneys, especially in misdemeanor criminal defense, whether it was prosecutors or whether it was the PD or defense attorneys or things like that, to mentor them and let them know where she stood or what she did, you know, what her thought process was after the case. And I also appreciate, you know, Judge McKibben, the way she handled both sides. She's firm and fair, but she held both sides to the same standard. And I think that is extremely important as well.
Thank you. I've heard some great things. I usually turn to the writing samples first. I was a little bit disappointed with the writing sample.
Okay.
Little choppy, single sentences, not a lot of analysis there. Do you, as a judge, of course, you know you work for a judge.
Absolutely.
You know you've got to do a lot of writing.
Correct.
Are you up for the writing part?
Absolutely, and I think from my perspective, when I'm writing either a motion to suppress or potential proposed orders, short and sweet is typically the way I like to go. I don't think that beating a dead horse is always the way to go. Now, obviously, in a judicial order, I think there's much more case law analysis. I'm trying to make a point, and my point is typically made in a few sentences. It's not a long, drawn-out process. I believe that the motion to suppress and things like that are done at argument, and I think that that's probably why those samples are where they are.
So you have been admitted to practice for a little bit under 10 years.
Correct.
We have other applicants with significantly more experience in the law and certainly more jury trial experience than you. How do you differentiate yourself from the other applicants given those concerns?
And I think that, yes, you can look at the law, and there are always going to be individuals with more experience than you. I do have 10 years outside of the law in a professional setting where I was the district manager for a finance company, dealing with 30 plus employees in 2 states and 6 offices. So I think that, in addition to the legal aspect, gives me a unique perspective, a different perspective than someone who's practiced in the law for the last 20 years. And I think it's one of those things that is important to have different types of perspectives. When you're on the bench, you're going to have different types of clients, you're going to have different types of individuals, and having only one perspective, and it's the legal perspective, while it would never downplay that to anybody, but I think that the other perspective and a different way of thinking is also extremely helpful.
Thank you. Do you have any closing remarks?
I wanted to be a judge my entire life. And this is my first opportunity to be in front of the panel. I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to what the rest of the year has in store.